wonderful. Okay, Brad. Now, what age were you introduced to hand dancing? Since you're a native Washingtonian as well.
I started around 8, 9, 10. I started dancing. My mother, actually, I almost grew up with my mother. She was 16 when I was born. So when I was 8, she was in her early 20s and she was dancing. And all her girlfriends used to come to her house before they went to the party. They needed somebody to lead them. That was me. So every new move that they were trying, I had to be able to execute it. So that's how I learned to dance. Right? Plus, we danced all day, lunchtime, recess, playground, Saturday, house parties Friday night. We danced every day. You know, that was, I mean, we didn't have anything else to do. Right? Go to school and dance.
And Brad, who were the influences on you in the dance?
Actually, you know, there's a guy, he's no longer with us, that was at one time considered one of the top dancers in the city. His name is Harvey Cooper. Harvey and I used to dance together all the time. So Harvey was not only a good dancer, Harvey was an excellent athlete. Right? Played football, basketball, baseball. Harvey was looked up to by everybody in the community, and also one of the top dancers. He went everywhere dancing. And Harvey was kind of my mentor, you know, in the early days. A few years older than I was, but it was Harvey Cooper.
You know, there's a corner that's over there in memory of Harvey Cooper. Yes, it is. There's a plaque and everything that's right there. The gentleman is covering it up at the moment. That's standing there. Okay. But if you can see over there, there's a placard over there in honor of Harvey Cooper.
As it should be. As it should be.
Okay. Now, when did you become first involved with teaching hand dance?
That's an interesting story. We were dancing at the Eclipse at the time, and Larry Beasley, who also is no longer with us, God rest his soul, came to me and said, man, I have a lot of people coming to the club, and they watch you guys dance, and they can't dance, and we need somebody to teach the dance. I said, Larry, everybody in D.C. knows how to hand dance. Everybody in Washington can't hand dance. He said, I'm telling you, there are people who come in here that are standing around looking at you guys dance and can't dance. And he just kept talking to me. He started talking to me in July. In November, I finally agreed to teach the class. And that was in November of 1992, 20 years ago.
Was there a large interest in hand dance classes in the early 90s?
My first class, I had 8 people. And that 8 people lasted for about a year. Shirley Robinson was one of the 8. She's still with me. And then after the first year and a half, it started picking up. We've had, it got to the point where we had to make room because we used to just teach. Everybody used to come in. So it got really busy. We had to make room. So we got to get rid of some of these people because we got too many in here. So I was working at UDC at the time. So I said, well, I'm a part of an education institute. Why don't we have a graduation? Right? And I recognize people for their achievement and so forth, and then they can move on and allow room for the new people to come in. We've had graduations of 110, 115 students.
I don't know if I missed this because I was being whispered to, but if I didn't miss it, then I want to go back for a second. When you first started when you first started teaching hand dance, and you had not evolved into smooth and easy at that time, but you had a cachet of old school community hand dancers that worked with you at that time.
We had a community teaching. Me, Lulu, Bayvon, Rosa, Melvin, who else was it? Clyde, right? It was a whole community of us in there. It was more of us than there was students. The students were confused because each one of us had our own style. So I didn't know how to teach. I didn't know what to tell a person to do. All I knew was how to do it. And it became, you know, and more people got involved, the more I realized that if I'm going to teach this, I better know it. So I started taking classes. I've been taking classes all over the country. And I still take classes because the one thing consistent about dance and anything else is change. And things are changing, so I'm trying to stay on the cutting edge of change. So share that with the students.
What do you see for the future of hand dance classes? You know, how critical are they to preserving hand dance, especially with the snowballing popularity of line dances in an area where women outnumber men, and sometimes it's the only way that they get onto the dance floor?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we have to do, really be careful. Line dances, I don't think, hurt. Because line dances, there are very few places where you go and the only thing you do is line dance, right? And one thing that I have to say about us Washingtonians, and this is not necessarily a good thing, we will let somebody come in with a new dance. Now everybody wants to do that dance, right? Stepping came in. And I looked up, everybody was stepping, right? If you go to Chicago, you better not say you hand dance. Say, we step in Chicago, we don't know, that look really good, but we step in Chicago. We'll let another dance. We can't afford to do that, right? We need to make sure that our dancers continue to hand dance. It's very similar. I don't, you know, this is kind of one of my pet peeves. You push the hot button. It's kind of like, and I know some of the old folks around here realize, remember the old CIAA? It ain't old no more, but the CIAA. Basketball. When you saw an athlete at the professional level, a black athlete at the professional level, you almost knew that that black athlete came from the CIAA. Bobby Dandridge, all these cats, they came from the CIAA. Earl Monroe, they came from the CIAA. Integration killed that. Now CIAA is a subpar organization. The same thing will happen to our dance if we don't keep the hand dancers, the young dancers like Akil, in hand dance. We don't allow them, and the integration I'm referring to in the dance form is West Coast and some of the other dances shag. We need to keep our dancers pure within our dance because they will do the same thing that the Dukes and the North Carolinas do. Come in the black community, take the best athletes and the best academic students out into their community, and all of a sudden they leave us. Right? And that's what will happen to hand dance if we don't nurture and retain our young black hand dancers.
Well, before we move on, I do want to say just to everyone, and of course in addressing the panel, there are quite a few national swing style dance competitions that are out there that it's almost like being in the civil rights movement. We worked very, very hard, and I put myself in it, but I really shouldn't. There are people that worked hard to get hand dance as a category in these competitions, and 10 years later they took it out because we're not patronizing our own hand dance divisions in these dance competitions. So they say, well, if they're not going to patronize their own self in their own dance, in their own division, we don't need it. We can't keep doing this. We cannot keep doing this. So we worked hard. It's like voting. You have people who died to give you the right to vote. So for you to say, I'm not going to vote, you know, the person I want to win ain't going to win no way. It ain't going to make a difference. That's not true. And that's the same thing with hand dance in some of these major competitions. We want to have people from the DC area who hand dance participate in any hand dance division that they have, and to the point where they put it back. Put it back. So I just want to say that. Shortly, quickly, I'm sorry, Sparky, quickly.
I just want to make a quick statement. Me and Brad went to Atlanta to learn to dance, and we put together a dance, and the girl that put it together went to NBC, ABC to put it on TV. They turned her down. But we dance with people from all over the world. And then 2 years later, here come Dancing with the Stars. And that's what it was.
Okay, Dr. Clark-Lewis.
In an era of full disclosure, I have to start out by saying that Cassandra Newsom, along with Vashon, were my teachers, and although I have 3 left feet, they were so gracious to let me graduate. So I have to say publicly thank you to my teachers, who, even though I took the class 100 times, I failed it, but I tried. Cassandra Newsom, I'd like to ask you,